Yeah.
Hello, hi. I think Richard will be here any minute. I know that he was getting ready, so he's not with me, but I think he'll be there very soon.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you to those who have joined us so far. So, if possible, if you're not presenting, we would love you to put your screen off, and so your video off and your mute button on, please. Jen and Kay will be looking after that throughout the session as people drop in. And then as each presenter comes up their turn, they'll be sharing their screen, so you'll be seeing them coming in, having a chat. Who's that? Okay, so I'm just mindful of the time. I think we should get started since it's about 4:03. Are you happy with that, Jen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, beautiful.
Kaya Bula, Nigala Kadich, Wadak Mort, Nunga Mort, Kaya Kadak, Nija Butcher. Hello, everybody. I would like to acknowledge the Wajak Nunga's people as the original custodians of this land on which we are hosting the meeting, the webinar. And my task, for those that don't know me, I'm Jennifer Pearson and I'm the current President of the Australian Association for Environmental Education. And it's with great pleasure that we present SEAWEEK Learning Circle. And thank you to Sarah Jo Lobian for taking up the task of coordinating this for us. It's a big job and we really appreciate it. My job now is to introduce Harry. And Harry is probably known to many of you, but Harry Bridle has been in this sea environment education for such a long time. And we're just extremely pleased to be able to assist MESA, the old MESA structure, to relaunch itself as SEAWEEK this year. And although it's not a big event this year, we appreciate that this is the beginning of something really significant. So we look forward to working closely with Harry and all of you who have possibly been in the MESA Society Network and into the future. So Harry, would you like to start your presentation and give us some background about what was a significant event under the MESA umbrella?
Thanks very much, Jen. Hopefully I'm now sharing my screen. MESA was the Marine Education Society of Australasia, not just Australia. We included New Zealand. We formed, our first meeting was 4 years after AAEE formed. So as far as I remember, AAEE was in 1980. And a group of us from around Australia got together in Queenscliff in Victoria in December 84 at an AMSA conference and had a 2-day follow-on from the Australian Marine Sciences Association conference. The next year we got together in Queensland and formally established MESA, and then it took us until 1990 until we incorporated. That's where we met, actually, at the birthplace of SEAWEEK. So SEAWEEK was born in that building behind our little group of people, and one of the two founders of SEAWEEK, Julie Swartz, is second from the right in the background, but I like to categorise us as children of the 50s, youth of the 60s, students of the 70s, and keen environmentalists, particularly of the early 80s. SEAWEEK came about when Julie met a colleague of ours from the US, and sort of that seeded the idea of celebrating the sea with a week worth of activities. So Julie and her friend Pauline Haplin at Marine Discovery Centre at Queenscliff created the first one in 1987 just for Victoria, and I think it was basically a colouring competition, but we also had a statewide crab survey that I coordinated. And it was just, again, I like the idea of sort of the keen young environmentalists of the 1980s. It was an interesting time, and groups like MESA and AAEE came up with all these fantastic ideas, and it's great to see SEAWEEK still going. The following year, because MESA was a national group and we had quite a good network, and there were two strong states, Victoria and New South Wales. So Greg McGarvey from Queensland, Queensland and Victoria were the two main states, and Greg from Queensland came in, and that was our first national year. I still don't know who came up with this logo. I've searched and searched and searched, but that was our original logo. As far as I can tell, we first used it in about 1993. For many years, we had it trademarked, which meant other people couldn't sort of steal our logo and use it. And you've got to remember that the late 1980s and early 1990s, we didn't have computers, and well, we had computers, but they didn't talk to each other, that sort of thing. And it was a time when the federal government had this process of, they called it capacity building. So groups like MESA could get a $40,000 grant. Remember, this is sort of this is over 30 years ago. $40,000 went a long way to running a program like SEAWEEK. We'd produce 1,000 kits. I'll show you one in a minute with that money, and also run a lot of activities right around Australia. So people could submit proposals to us for funds to run an activity, and we could then help them fund that activity. SEAWEEK took off in New Zealand as well. If you want to complete, I won't click on the link, but hopefully this will be available later on. On the old MESA website, all the old, we did a different theme each year. All the old themes are there up to about 2010 or something like that, and sample materials. And I posted to Jen all my old SEAWEEK kits. Oh, yeah, okay, that's it. So stop sharing screen. I'll hold up. That's a kit we did in 96. So we'd send about 400 of these out. We had between 400 and 450 paid up members. And one of the things when we started to move on to web-based activities, we'd lost a lot of members because the members would say, well, you know, why don't we get our fabulous kit each year? And the other one I wanted to hold up quickly was, and this is when Sarah Jo and I got talking, I've had a lot to do with my US-based colleagues in creating and promoting this concept of ocean literacy with the 7 principles of ocean literacy. And we're working on principle number 6 this year, that humans and the ocean are connected. And number 7 is the ocean is largely unexplored. In 2003, this is the poster we had for 2003 about, and the theme was ocean exploration. And I've been lucky enough to do a lot of work in the deep sea with US colleagues. So hopefully we'll be able to put together a really fantastic SEAWEEK next year with links to people like CSIRO and their research vessel, and some of my colleagues in the US. But I think that's about it for me. We could do questions, or we just zoom to the next presentation.
We'll probably have time for if there is a pressing question. There's nothing in the chat. Does anybody have a question for Harry? All right, thank you, Harry. And remember, if anybody's got a question, they can put it in the chat, and we can put it at the end later or answer it later via our social media. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so I might start. Hang on, got to share screen first. Okay, so I am the coordinator of SEAWEEK this year, and I was really excited about this particular theme for this year, which is is based on the 6 literacy principle, which is that ocean and humans are inextricably interconnected. I practiced that multiple times, so unfortunately stumbled on that. So this is a really good theme to relaunch SEAWEEK into March. So as you know, SEAWEEK has been in September for the last few years. We've brought it back to March, and what a theme to start off with, because it's a very, very important theme about how we affect the oceans and how the oceans affect us, and influences in between that, all our interrelationships. And a big thing for me is looking at how the health of the oceans are affected by us, but also how we affect the health of the oceans, and the health of oceans, how they affect us. So I won't read through this, but this is basically the huge summary that this particular principle covers. And as you can see, there's a lot in there, because we have obviously a huge relationship with the ocean and how it affects us from everyday activities, from the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the clothes we wear, how we shop and how we get those items, for example, transport. So this has been a really great topic, and it's also a very good topic, I thought, to start looking at how we can start to broach the subject of ocean literacy for those who live further from the coast than most of us. Obviously, I'm quite biased. I live near the ocean, so I spend most of my life obviously being quite aware of how I'm influenced by the sea, but we have a huge chunk internationally, but also here nationally, of people that live inland and may not be quite aware of how their everyday actions affect the ocean and how the ocean affects their everyday life. So I thought this is a really good topic. We need to start thinking about linking everybody in ocean literacy, not just those that live near the coast. So like I said, I'm not going to go through all of this. This you can find that from the Ocean Literacy website, which there's a link on our website, but also we'll provide these links at a later date. But I wanted to start off with this beautiful picture, because every lesson usually that we do with students, we get them to breathe in. So we take 3 deep breaths in. And why we do that is to start to think about their relationship with the ocean. So when they take 3 breaths, we then start into the idea of that over 60% of our oxygen comes from the sea, comes from the ocean, from marine producers. So that is obviously a huge, huge, huge information source for our students and from our public to understand that whether they eat seafood or not, whether they go for a swim every day, whether they love scuba diving, whether they understand ocean food webs, oxygen is very important to humans, and it is our marine producers at the start of the food webs. Then from the small things to the big things. So I'm not going to talk about it today because I'm obviously limited with time, but I did a whole blog post about the value of a blue whale or of large whales, linking to everything from being carbon sinks to how they can affect our forests on land. So it is a really good topic to look beyond some of the usual things we might talk about how we're affected by ocean. Obviously for me, I work a lot in ocean pollution. So my first thought is obviously how humans affect the ocean and how the ocean is affected by pollution. But it's a really great topic to think more along of the food ecosystems and how they affect those inland as well. For example, there's that great documentary recently about how our Great Barrier Reef affects the forests on the land and also our water cycle, how our actual rain inland is affected by the way we're changing the ocean systems. So this topic has a lot that we can cover talking about interconnectedness. last night I watched a thing on TV about certain jellyfish and how we are looking at scientists are looking at how proteins and how that links to medicines. So that is another great way to link to people that might not live on the coast, but we all use different types of medicine. So that's probably another great education focus, linking how different marine organisms have led to medicine developments, technological developments. For example, shark skin and aerodynamics is another great way to think beyond the coast, but also link to those whether they live on the coast or not. Another great educational piece is start to think about perspective. Obviously, I work in ocean pollution, so I have to have some of this in here. But thinking about our perspective about our using of products, whether we live by the coast or not, and how that affects the ocean, whether where the products are sourced from, how they're manufactured, and also where they end up, and also the emissions that are produced by their manufacture. This is a really good image that's shared a lot. Just thinking about perspective, obviously there's a plastic bag in there looking exactly like jellyfish, and how as humans, even for us in the ocean, we might mistake things, but obviously we're relying on species that have been here long time before us to be able to identify between these products. I saw this today, so I quickly just shoved this into my presentation before we jumped on today. I really love this from Perth, Adopt a Beach. So Wayne has created these little snapshot images to get students and the public to start thinking. So for example, our oceans are a highway for our transportation of goods and people. So maybe asking our students to think about maybe 5 objects that they own or have received as gifts or that they use every day that may have come from a shipping container. And then another one that he shared is how it's a source of inspiration, recreation, rejuvenation, and discovery. So it's not all about the economics, it's also about our enjoyment of the ocean. Okay, so I'm looking at my time, so I'm going to rush through a little bit of these things, but these are some of the slides that I use with students when we start to talk about how the ocean is essential to all life on Earth. Like I said, I don't keep on going over it, but not just those that live on the coast. So we talk about the start of food chains, the health of the oceans, but also how life began in the oceans, where we get our protein from, where even if we don't eat seafood, for example, how does oxygen and marine producers affect the global food chains, whether you eat seafood or whether you eat any meat, for example. We talk about our regulation, our water cycles, etc. I've mentioned a bit about medicines and transport. And also a huge thing is it supports livelihoods. So if we're talking about pollution, for example, they do affect livelihoods. Tourism, if we're talking about pollution, for example, that does have a huge effect on tourism. We also concentrate heavily on Australia. So we obviously SEAWEEK Australia, thinking about how important the ocean and our sea and marine environments are for Australia itself, and start thinking of the things that we have ownership of. You know, we've got 3 major oceans as our borders. We've got the 3rd largest marine territory. We have 85% live on the coast. So that's pretty important, thinking about different things, how we affect the coast and living on rivers. What is that going to affect us when we come talking about the health of the ocean? And obviously, one thing I find with students have never heard of before, we have the largest seagrass meadow, or one of the largest seagrass meadows in the world, Shark Bay in Western Australia. And at the start, I talked about our marine producers. So that's a really good link of thinking about Australia-wide, not just your state. How can we link the importance of the ocean and the sea environments Australia-wide? So I'm going to just go through these last few slides quickly, just looking at the time. That's obviously talking about Australian waters, but I would like to end on, even if you never see the ocean, you exist because of the oceans. So no oceans, so no healthy oceans, we're going to have a very poor lifestyle. So our environment, economy, society, and culture are deeply dependent on healthy oceans. And concentrating on Australians, we are islanders, coastal people, 85% of us. We love the beach. We're proud of our coral reefs. We love to get on the water. A lot of people love to eat seafood. It's a part of our lifestyle. Cost to humans, it's not just about food. I've talked about our oxygen production, our fish stocks, how much it costs to clean up some problems, our link to tourism, risk to shipping. So obviously I'm talking about pollution here. And when I talk about plastics, which I'm not going to concentrate too much on today, but also thinking about this resource, what are we doing with it? Are we wasting a resource when we use things only single use? And that links to a couple of things as well, thinking about humans and how it's affecting us. So I won't go too much on this today, but this is another great link in this topic, thinking about biomagnification and bioaccumulation, how things are building up in food chains and how that's going to affect us as humans. Whether we live very right on the coast, we all use water and we all are linked to sewage and stormwater. So this is another great topic to think about, a runoff and how that links to the oceans. So these three things here, I think they're a really good kind of visualization of understanding our human link. So we have a very good diagram of nurdles that are actually used to make that particular product, so the milk bottle, and thinking about one, how do nurdles end up in our ocean, but also what happens with that milk bottle. Linking to in the middle, that's obviously pollution, bits of plastic, etc. from the beach, thinking about how that stuff got there, but also if I use it, how does it end up there and how can I stop using it or stop it ending up there? And then obviously all drains lead to the sea. I'm going to finish up today on my particular thing, explaining what I thought the topic today, this year's theme could link to in education. And I took this photo yesterday because I saw a few people on the beach picking up empty shells. And I had to explain to them that they weren't left there. There were once an animal that's now decayed, but hermit crabs actually need them to change into bigger shells as they grow. So even our little actions every day, so picking up shells from the beach, actually has an effect on the ocean. So from big actions to small actions, understanding our effects, so how we are connected to the ocean and the health of the ocean is very important. So I'm going to finish up on just reminding you of the other two competitions that we have running this year for SEAWEEK. We have a colouring competition and we also have a social media video competition where you film, so any age, any student, any classroom films a short video of how they think they are connected to the ocean, and there's some prizes. And lastly, but not least, just a reminder, next year's theme is the ocean is largely unexplored. So try to think outside of the square of what that theme could mean. So I don't know, I was thinking about yesterday, I can even think about how a rock pool, thinking about those women down at the beach that didn't realize that those empty shells actually have a role to play in the ocean. So even a rock pool that's unexplored could be a great thing to explore for your students and with your families. I'm going to end there because I've definitely gone over time. So thanks very much. And any questions I'll take at the end. But I'm going to lead into now Lisa, who's from Ocean Action Pod.
Lovely. Hi, everybody. I think the camera's coming up in a moment. Got my camera on. So my name's Lisa Wriley, and I'm from the Total Environment Centre. And I want to give you a little introduction to the Ocean Action Pod that we have created 5 years ago now, amazingly. So I'll just share my screen and, oops, Yep. Now, is that looking the right thing? I hope. Yep.
Looking good. Yep.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. So it's me over here with my fantastic colleagues and volunteers. And at one of the days, probably in the first couple of years of taking the Ocean Action Pod out. So behind us there, and there's other photos, you'll see them, it's a little multimedia trailer. So it's kind of like a big heavy caravan that we tow behind a four-wheel drive, and we take it out to anywhere that invites us to come and books the pod to go to council events and schools and spread the message about plastic pollution, and more importantly about the solutions to plastic pollution. So I'm going to give you a little introduction to, if I can change screens. It's not only letting me look at it, it's not letting me move to the next screen. Let me see, here we go. Okay, so the pod, as we call it, we've got a little video that shows here, yeah, one of the, I think it was one of the Sydney Council, I think Moss Council, we'll have a look, and you can see a little introductory video. This is one of our excursion days. We've had a couple of school students come down. That's Andrew Tovey, he designed the Ocean Action Pod. So these are the close-up of the plinths. So they're a real feature of the pod. That's attracting, there's Michelle with a turtle and a plate bag. We look at lots of plastic items. We've got about 6 different lessons that we run with the students. A little science investigation desk there, microplastics in pots. It's the spoon story, which I'll talk about. You might have noticed the solar panels on the roof there. The pod's fully sort of self-powering with the solar power. Okay. So you would have seen some parts of the Ocean Action Pod in that little video. And these pictures you can see us at the beaches. A lot of the coastal councils from Northern Beaches, Randwick Council, often book us to be on Coogee Beach, Maroubra Beach, at Manly, DY, whole lot of events that we've been to. And the plinths you can see there are the big plastic tubes, and we've sorted waste into different categories there. So whether it's all straws, all balloon rubbish, all lollipop sticks, all thongs, plastic bags, all the different categories, and it really gets people's imaginations going. They're really shocked to see that many things in one place. And then we have the conversations with them, help them to see how they might have been contributing to that situation, or how, you know, the take 3 message of everybody picking something up will make a difference. Even if it doesn't look like much, you can really make a big impact. In the top right, Alex is doing the Little Things Matter activity with a little girl. So it was sieving the sand and having a look at the small bits. So some of them, you know, microplastics, and some of them just a bit bigger, broken up pieces of other larger items. The bottom left is a school with a beautiful mural that we set up for the day. I think it's Lady Dolores in Chatswood, and we got some wonderful feedback there actually at the end of the day. We had a message from the principal on that day, said, fantastic day of learning. Thanks for all you guys do for the planet. Maintain the rage. So we really love it when we get feedback to say that we've really had an impact on the students. The middle photo at the bottom is waste not, the sorting circles. So all the different 7 R's from refill, reduce, refuse, rot, repair, return, whole lot of R's that come before recycling in our list of priorities. And we just love engaging with people out in public and getting them thinking about what we can do to reduce that huge problem of plastic pollution. The next couple of slides are showing some of our resources for the lessons that we deliver with school students. So we're going to watch a little bit of Sarah Jo actually giving a lesson in Who Eats Who in a moment. And in the top right, that's my colleague Rianti doing the spoon story, which is an awesome activity that just brings to life the story of a plastic spoon, right from the oil fields through to the factories and the whole process where oil gets turned into plastic pellets and little nurdles, and right through to the spoon factory and the ships that go around the world, and the incredible work that goes into making a spoon that we use for a few minutes. And then down in the bottom right, that's one of my favourite ones, is the plastic fantastic question mark activity, which I'll also explain a little bit in a minute. Okay, so this is a little glimpse. We've just got 2 minutes here of a lesson on who eats who that Sarah Jo's doing with some fantastic student volunteers. And this really connects to the theme about how everything is connected.
These sardines. So they've eaten as we got through the order, but these sardines, what have we got in the food chain that these sardines eat? Gabby, what's the arrow from?
The plankton.
The plankton, all right? So the slightly bigger fish eats the smaller organisms in the food chain. And then the sardines, who eats the sardines?
The penguin.
The penguin. So a penguin, how many fish do you think a penguin might eat a day?
That's a very tricky question, I reckon.
10, if it's lucky, 15, maybe 15. So each penguin needs more fish. All right, what's another one we can look at? The salmon. Liv, can you pass me the salmon for me, or pick up the salmon? All right, who eats the salmon?
The shark.
The sharks. So the shark has a few things it likes to eat, but it definitely likes this bigger fish. Now, we also want to have a look at some things in the food chain that are some issues. And we're talking about pollution, in this case, microplastics and plastics in general. So we've got small bits of plastic that can enter the food chain at the very beginning here. They're about the size of plankton. So if you think about if these items are eating these items and these items resemble microplastics, there's a chance that these items could eat microplastics. Now we're talking about the big bits of plastic. Liv, can you pick up the jellyfish for me? Do you know what a jellyfish is eaten by?
The turtle.
The turtle. Gabby, what looks like jellyfish in the water?
Plastic.
Plastic. What types of plastic? Got any idea?
Plastic bag.
Plastic bags. Do you have any other idea what other plastic items? Some people don't realise balloons also look like jellyfish to turtles. So not only do you have the small bits of plastic that could enter the food chain, but plastic bags and balloons that look like jellyfish. The turtle mistakes plastic bags and balloons for jellyfish. So that is 2 ways that plastics can get, unfortunately, into our food chains, our food web.
There we go. Yeah, so that's a little visit lessons that we can deliver. There's a whole lot of resources on our website. So we've also got that videos available on our website, and there's a worksheet that you can download. There's teachers' notes and resources to go with it. And there's a little tiny video here just showing you how to find these things on our website. So you can see there the Ocean Action Pod website with the resources tab and the school resources and community resources. So there's just a quick little video shows you where to find them, and you can go through to curriculum linked activities, who eats who, the spoon story, and some fantastic videos created, a lot of them last September, which we renamed September for single-use plastics. So I just started that video again. Okay, this is one of my favourite little lessons, and you can see here the banner, and you can also download the graphic of this banner from our website. So it's it basically got a couple of key questions that we think any of us can use about any plastic item to decide whether it's a fantastic plastic or a not so fantastic plastic. So the two questions written on the banner, one down the bottom there, is how long do we use the plastic item for? Is it used once, or a few times, for a few years, or for decades? Or, and the other question on the other side, on both sides there, it's like a 2D graph, is how important is the plastic item? So from right down the bottom left, you can see in the not fantastic corner is don't really need it. Nice to have, quite important, and really important. They're all up the left-hand side and up the right-hand side. So we hand out items to the students and get them to talk with the person next to them, and then place them on that banner to just, you know, give it a decision. Can they make a good choice about whether that's a not fantastic plastic or a fantastic one? And there are examples that we give of things like a reusable plastic water bottle. Some of it, when I went to school, I actually used the same bottle for, I think, the whole of primary school. So that bottle, you know, was reusable, used for a long time, not decades, but certainly for years. And it was a good thing. On top of the banner there, it might be a bit confusing because we're just showing the activity at the beginning where we talk about the positive and negative features of plastic. So we list things like durable, strong, colourful, clear, versatile, long-lasting. And we say, okay, these are all positive things about plastic. Are any of them negative? Are they causing problems? And in fact, the amazing thing is all the students can tell you reasons why being cheap ends up being a problem, why unbreakable ends up being a problem, why lightweight ends up being a problem. You know, because they're cheap, there's so much of it. Because it's lightweight, it blows away. So all of those things I'm sure you could look at and work out, okay, why, you know, it's positive. It's one of the reasons why plastic's so popular, and it is, but there's also, yeah, it's one of the, you know, the same reasons that plastic is popular is the same reasons why it becomes a big problem. Okay, so our aim at the Ocean Action Pod is really to inspire ocean action heroes, and I've got a quick little clip here with some of the ocean action heroes who we have come across or are part of our Ocean Action Pod community.
There's plastic straws, there's reusable straws. This is a silicone straw, a metal straw. I always see a bit of plastic lying, and you should always pick it up, even if it's not yours. And after that, you should wash your hands, so you do not want to get a virus or sick.
I do my bit for the ocean, even if I'm only a kid. I take reusable bags when shopping in the supermarket. I help my mum pick up rubbish on the beach, and I take reusable cutlery when I go and eat at my favourite restaurant because they always give single-use plastic, even when you eat there. I hope you do your bit for the ocean.
There you go. So we love having those conversations with a lot of the children that we meet at schools and at the community events. And this is one of our favourites at an event we were at where Zara confronted her poor dad who had chosen the wrong day to use a disposable cup. Because we're obviously promoting reusables and yes, the keep cups and all those things.
Is that your daddy? Yeah.
Shall we talk to him?
Quick one. Maybe don't move like sometimes we
I know she's a bit hard to hear, but we've got some credits.
Sean, how do you feel about what
words on
your
the screen.
daughter just said to you?
She's absolutely right. I should have brought my kids back.
Yeah. So,
This is the tough question that Rosanna raises. That's the tough thing, but those conversations absolutely, you know, help people make changes. So our final little video here is, a couple of young people we met recently at Maroubra Beach, and they really summed up, you know, the importance of us getting this message out to the community about plastic pollution. We've called the plastic, unfortunately, as a new ocean species our plinths are labelled with ecology labels.
That like the community is educated about this issue of like pollution in the ocean and about how like forest resources can impact the environment and they have like such detrimental like effects on the ocean and marine life and even like our own coast. And that since people are going to become educated about this, they can make more conscious decisions about it, and everyone can do their own sort of vibes, like do something better for themselves and educate other people about the issue. And Natasha, how old are you? I'm 16. And what about this young man? Would you like to add?
Yeah, I'd like to say that like if we like come together as a community, we can like lobby and like convince governments to make actions that will help like all of Australia, you know, get rid of these plastics and use more recyclable and not single-use products.
Thank you.
It's great, yeah. So those kind of conversations are super important. Moving on that one. Yeah, you could, as I mentioned, we go to do different things at Ocean Action Pod, the whole trailer. We can do a pop-up with the plinths and the gazebo and information. And we also in the bottom there can do the waste not audits at schools. So on our website, Sarah Jo's already put up one of our posters, the bottom left, of how does plastic end up in the ocean. These are all on our website, and you can get digital copies, so you can produce as many as you like by buying the digital pack there on the website. And there's our Facebook, Instagram and website to find out more. And thank you. Sorry, I might have gone just a tad over my time, but yeah, great to be here and happy SEAWEEK to everybody.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, we'll head straight into Michelle from AUSMAP.
There we go. Can we see that?
Sure can.
Great, awesome. Okay, I can't see myself, but that's okay. Can everyone see the screen though?
You can. It's still in non-presentation. Yeah, perfect.
Ah, there we go. I can just see you up there, Sarah Jo. That's all right. Good. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Michelle. I am the Program Director of AUSMAP, the Australian Microplastic Assessment Project. I also work for the Total Environment Centre like Lisa, and have worked with Sarah Jo and some of you out there in internet land over the last few years. So a little bit of background on me just quickly is that I have a PhD in dolphin acoustics and impacts of noise on and impact of human disturbance on marine mammals. So I've seen firsthand the impact of marine debris on these animals. And so Andrew, who actually Lisa mentioned in the previous presentation, also designed this program AUSMAP back a few years ago now, and so I've taken it over. So it's based around our common knowledge that Sarah Jo and Lisa have brought up is plastic and debris, and we have a love affair of this stuff. As you can see from these images, it's images that we see fortunately not so often here, but you can see, well, my favorite here is this wonderful bananas unwrapped or unpeeled for our pleasure, so to speak, wrapped in polystyrene and wrapped again in plastic. And we have this love affair with plastic that goes back quite a while now. And it all comes down to consumerism and what we choose to do with this. And so unfortunately, though, so much of it ends up in our waterways. 80% of it, in fact, comes from land. This is an image. I'm now based in Adelaide, having spent the last 20 years in Sydney, and now we're working on the Cooks's River in Sydney. And this is images that are quite commonly seen. Unfortunately, most of this stuff is coming down our stormwater drains, and not a lot of it is caught before it ends up landing in our oceans and off seas as well. And so our program was based more around when this stuff is left in our oceans and our waterways for long periods of time, it breaks up into smaller and smaller pieces, such as what we call microplastic. So anything that's less than 5 mils in size, or about half the size of your little pinky, as you can see from this photo, it gives you a good description of what we term microplastics. For AUSMAP, we look at the 1 to 5 mil size range. That way we can see it as citizens in this program. So where does this stuff come from? Well, it's obviously the breakup of larger items in the environment, such as bottles, and 80% of what we find in our waterways actually comes from the beverage industry. And once left out there because of UV and because of wave action and coming down stormwater waterways and things like that, it sort of causes them to break up over time. Another big contributor to microplastic is the fibres coming from our clothes, synthetic clothes that we wear. And unfortunately, our wastewater treatment plants aren't able to stop this stuff before it lands out to sea. Another big contributor to microplastics is a great picture that I loved of Sarah Jo's there with the milk container showing the nurdles. Nurdles are the base form of plastics when they're first formed, and there's a lot of industry spills occurring from that end up in our waterways and straight onto our beaches. And like foam as well, they're often mistaken for food and then ingested by the animals that some of us like to eat. Unfortunately, microbeads, although there was an involuntary ban a few years ago worldwide, they are still available in some of our products. And they're the small beads that are found in either face cleansers or some toothpaste. So anything with granules, unless purchased from a healthcare shop, is often made of plastic. So we're consuming this, in fact, as well, which is really quite sad. So the impact of microplastics is several-fold. Obviously, the degradation of plastics, and then not only are the plastics made of contaminants, then once out there in the marine environment or in the aquatic environment, they actually also are attached by contaminants such as pollutants that are already in the ocean. They then go through the food web, and I've worked very closely with the Ocean Action Pod, and this is a great exercise that's actually displayed, and Lisa was just talking to you about that with Sarah Jo showing it as well, how that we can explain to kids about how this uptake goes through the food chain, where you can see this smallest zooplankton ingesting plastics, the green parts of plastics, right through to the fish that we're ingesting, and then potentially into us. And unfortunately, this impact is global. It doesn't stop. And as Sarah Jo earlier, our oceans are all connected. There's no boundaries. This is an albatross chick. They only spend 90 days fledged on this land before they fly off to sea. And unfortunately, there was over 350 pieces of plastics in their belly. Now, all of these pictures of this plastics on this side are what was found in that one little bird's stomach, including full-size toothbrushes, lighters, etc., etc. These little black dots down here on the belly of that bird is what they should be being eaten, consuming, which is squid beaks. And so that poor bird is being filled up by plastic, thinking their parents are doing the right thing, and unfortunately it's causing them to die very, very prematurely. So marine plastics or aquatic plastics have become a very hot topic around the world, and that's becoming increasingly so in recent years. And fortunately for us, just most recently, an article that was written about our project in the ABC just 2 days ago. But it's a common topic and it's become a very hot topic. And this was the basis of starting AUSMAP. AUSMAP is the Australian Microplastic Assessment Project. It's a nationwide project that uses a scientific methodology to educate and engage students and communities in mapping where microplastics are so that we can educate and learn more about where they are so we can come up with effective solutions to stop it, all based around education. We have different phases, different stages to do with it, and I'll go through this quickly and show you an example. We collect baseline data because it's really important to know obviously where the hotspots are, but also where there's low or no presence of microplastics as well. Once we identify where these microplastics are, and we're doing that by educating and engaging students, which I'll talk about in just a moment, as well as local communities. We also work very closely with councils, and one of our partners is actually A2E in New South Wales, which is really wonderful. We're able to then identify potentially where some of these sources are coming from. and then look at effective resource and source reduction and effective remediation strategies to try and stop some of this stuff before it lands in our waterways any further. And all of this is combined with, stakeholder engagement and education and evaluation, all of that as well. Ultimately, with the number one key thing is behavioural change. And as we've seen from Lisa's presentation, is that it has got a lot to do with identifying and educating the young people of today before they go out there and start being the litterers of the future. And I've got a 12-year-old and they are the age that we have to target. So in terms of identifying where the microplastics are, we go around, we run training days, we engage students, we engage teachers in this program, and we come up with these hotspot maps. This is I live over here in South Australia. Hello to any South Australians out there. And you'll see here that we've got a category system up here in the corner about the different levels of microplastics per square metre. Unfortunately, right here in Adelaide, there's a big black spot. Now, even though we come from the state that has just brought in, the single-use plastic ban, which is really, really exciting, we have the highest loads of microplastic ever found or ever recorded in on Australian shorelines, with over 9,500 pieces per square metre. Now, that is crazy amounts compared to, say, even Sydney, where you would expect to find high loads. Their highest around so far is about 4,000. So even though that is tremendously high, we're still faced with these high loads. And so we're working very closely with, we're trying to work very closely with schools, state governments, councils to identify where it's coming from and how do we stop it. And that leads into the education side of things as well. So this is a photograph up here in that location where they have the highest loads of microplastic, and this is one of the schools that we work locally with. And we've developed these term programs based around the Australian curriculum, directly linked to the Australian curriculum for geography and science. And they are for scopes of work for science, geography, investigating science, research projects and the like. And they've been developed by someone that you probably know. Some of you would know Kate Carey and Christine Freeman out of Sydney region, and that was developed in the early days through A2E New South Wales. And so they're available for teachers to use once trained in the program as well. And so as a result of our program, we've conducted over 35 different training days across the country, and we develop regional hubs in these locations, which you can find all this information on our website. And it equates to over 8,000, probably closer to 9,000 people across the country that we're now working with. And the most important part is that we've removed well over 200,000 pieces of microplastic from our shorelines before they go into the ocean, which is really, really exciting. And so you can see some of the locations that we've worked. You can see out here we've got Cocos, we're doing Timor as well, Lord Howe Island and Norfolk Island. The school out there has just started to get some gear together so that they can start collecting for us as well, which is really exciting. So this shows you that hotspot map drawn in around the Sydney region. And so you can see here there's quite a few black spots, red spots, and then of course there's still some green locations where there's very low loads of microplastics as well. So what we can do, so if we just go back one step, so up here around Dee Why Lagoon, what we're doing with one of the little grants that we've got from EPA is that we're able to start looking at this location there in Dee Why is a very important habitat. So we work with a local school and Northern Beaches Council, where we actually put some traps, some nets on some of the stormwater drains through this catchment here along this creek line here that flows into Dee Why Lagoon, which is a very important habitat for migratory birds as well as fish species. And so the local schools in this area come down and they help us out putting these nets out and sorting through the debris that we find, that we can then track the sources of the macro, the big stuff and the little stuff through these subcatchments and start to identify what are the key litter items that are coming down from these regions. So, for example, here in the purple is the industrial area. So we're finding high loads of foam, packaging and pellets, which would make sense, the nurdles, the small resin pellets that we spoke about earlier. In the residential area, we're finding lots of hard fragments, the breakup of bottles and bottle caps, etc. Whereas here in the higher density area, a lot of soft plastic packaging and film. So from that, we can then target these individual areas and put street level traps in to capture this stuff before it even enters our waterways at all. So we're working with, this is again part of that EPA grant. This is in the region around DY. And what we do is put in these, what we call drain buddies, is street level drain baskets that go into the stormwater drains at the street level and capture everything that's going down there. Unfortunately, a lot of it is leaves and organics, but for a case like DY Lagoon, which is infilling, and so that's another really important part about geography of that region and coastal management, which the Coastal Environment Centre at Northern Beaches Council work very closely with the local schools there. It's infilling, and so it's really important for the councils to understand how much of this debris is both organic and non-organic. And then we work with our university students and interns to be able to capture this stuff. Unfortunately, though, sometimes it takes a very long time to go through it as well. But what we can find is these are all the different traps that have been put in around this DY Chroma area. And this is all playing fields in here. This is the industrial area around here. And then this is residential. Here you can see an unsorted load, which lots of organic and lots of debris. And then you can start to pick out very finely all the little bits of microplastic that we find as well. This is a bit difficult to see, but it basically gives you an idea of this area that we're looking at, playgrounds and residential. And all I'll point out here is that this large orange amount is rubber. And down here, so the playing fields is large amounts of rubber and, unfortunately, artificial grass. Now, some of you might be saying rubber. What kind of, where's the rubber coming from? Soft fall from playgrounds and the base of artificial grass fields is made with rubber crumb, artificial rubber crumb. And it's becoming more and more evident in our samples, and this is becoming a really critical stage of trying to stop some of these artificial fields being developed before it goes any further. Whereas if you look over here where it's a bit more of residential area, but there's a big pub here as well, we get lots of glass and also lots of packaging material and hard fragments as well. So that gives you an overview of what the AUSMAP program is all about. If you'd like to know any more about our program and the educational material that's available or the school programs that we have where we work right across Australia, please get in touch and happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much for inviting me to present. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. So there was no questions in the chat. There were a few, but they got answered as you went through your presentation. So we might just head straight to Alexis, just because I know she's got to head off to another meeting this afternoon. So Lexi is from MSC. Are you there, hun? Yes, she's all ready.
Hello. Yeah, thanks, Sarah Jo. I'll just get straight into it. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me at SEAWEEK. I am from the Marine Stewardship Council. We are an international nonprofit, and we're dedicated to the prevention of overfishing and recognising and rewarding fishers that are doing the right thing and protecting our oceans by fishing sustainably. You'll recognise us by the blue fish tick, which you can see on seafood products in Australia, as well as certain restaurants and fishmonger shops, etc., get certified. Oh dear, here we go. So we've recently taken an interest in education in the formal education sense in the school setting. Globally, we're actually across 22 countries as an organisation, and most especially in Australia and New Zealand. So our idea is that the younger generations are a real key for us to pass on and instill the right values about protecting our oceans and consuming sustainably. So what we've done is we've adapted some resources that were created at the global office of the Marine Stewardship Council in collaboration with a whole bunch of Australian teachers and education professionals. And we've really targeted at this stage years 5 to 10, Australia-wide, and most especially in subjects such as science and geography. Although we have had a few extra resources looking into mathematics and a little bit of English, and we're also moving into the design and technology subjects as well. So here's an example of what you'll find on our website. These are lesson plans, and for each lesson plan, you'll find the Australian curriculum aligned. It'll spell out exactly which objectives you can relate this lesson to. Here are some examples of what they look like on the outside, and then on the inside, we've got all kinds of activities to go along with the lessons. So some examples of them would be a fishing field trip, a supermarket survey to figure out the sort of sustainability credentials of your seafood products. And then more of the biological side of things. What is a fish? What are the ecosystems and habitats fish come from? How does the food web work? This is one from the science, I believe in years 5 and 6, a bit of a fish identification key. We also have an awards program. So that's targeting schools that go above and beyond in their dedication to teaching marine sustainability. We recognise schools that are, for example, starting up a blue group of students, or perhaps hosting an assembly or a school day to do with the oceans, or maybe that participate in some of our events and activities that we have throughout the year. We have a teacher newsletter as well that we're keeping everyone updated on about our upcoming resources. We're bringing out new things all the time, other things happening in the MSc, such as the recent Fish Forever cookbook full of exciting recipes and some competitions and younger age activities that we have available as well. This year, we are hoping to move into Indigenous fishing topics and perhaps some resources for the senior school teachers amongst you. So looking at what sort of job pathways there might be for students who are really interested in going into the seafood industry, whether that be as a fisher or a chef or working in the science side of things. Perhaps we have a lot of scientists in the MSc, something to do with auditing sustainability. And we also take quite a bit of focus on National Science Week. So we're going to be doing some exciting activations for that. And also working on developing our institutional partnerships. So we're talking a lot with museums such as maritime museums and galleries and universities about expanding our offering in partnership with them. We also did a Christmas prawn themed special of a few resources last year, and I'm sure that will be something that we can refurbish and bring again for Christmas this year. That's just an example of the kinds of things we're doing in theme with the calendar moments of the year. Our current campaign happening actually in line with SEAWEEK this week is Sustainable Seafood Week. That's actually the annual flagship campaign of the Marine Stewardship Council and our sister organisation, the Aquaculture Stewardship Council. So we're hosting a virtual classroom. This is on tomorrow, hosted out of Taronga Zoo. It's on the theme aligned with National Science Week for this year, which is Food Different by Design. And that will be a really fun event. It will be meeting one of the Taronga seals called Nala. We'll hear from workers on a fish farm and then learn about bycatch reduction at a prawn fishery in the north of Australia. And then we'll do a Q&A with one of our shark experts, Dr. Adrian. We also have a resource that's going to be released tomorrow in line with this, and that's all to do with food systems, and it mimics the event. It's looking at responsible aquaculture and innovation in the fishing sector for more sustainable seafood. I also just want to mention that we have a New Zealand program called Tangaroa's World, or Te Kawa o Tangaroa. and they've come up with 9 different topic areas. These aren't Australian curriculum aligned, being in New Zealand, but they do have a whole bunch of additional resources, games and activities that you might want to go and explore and adapt, or perhaps you can refer to your colleagues in New Zealand. So that's all from me. If you want to check out Sustainable Seafood Week, I'd really encourage you to see what else is going on throughout the month. It's going to be sort of running until Easter this year. And thanks again. Happy Sea Week to you all. And yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Alexis. And I think that's a great segue into Richard, because we had a great conversation yesterday about the seafood festival that was happening years ago, weren't we, Richard?
That's right, Sarah Jo. We a long time ago, which makes me old. Stop telling people I'm old. When I used to work at Underwater World, started back in 1996. We actually had SEAWEEK was a very big festival. We had schools involved. They'd do parades all down through the streets of Mooloolaba. There'd be prawn trawler races. There'd be the longest mullet throwing competition. So thanks to Harry and his background, but we did get on board at Underwater World, and it was a really good thing. What's, I guess, sad is over the years that it's lost its drive, it's lost its impetus, and it'd be nice to get that momentum back again and to get it up and running and get it in people's focus, because obviously that then helps build appreciation, understanding of the environment and why we need to look after it. Excellent. So you want me to tell them what I'm all about?
Yes, please. So you're going to do a summary first for your video, because I'll let you go now. I'll press myself on.
All right. Well, now I can't hear you. Yeah, okay. Well, I won't put my video up just yet. Am I getting full screen with my picture? Is everyone seeing me full screen?
Yes, I am.
Okay, that's good. Sorry that it's an ugly picture, but there you go. We'll have a look at a video very shortly. But just for everyone, we are based in Queensland on the Sunshine Coast. We also run 2 vans out of Tingaupa in Brisbane. And basically what we do is we take live marine animals around to schools, childcare centres, old people's homes, events, shopping centres, vacation care. So we're actually taking live marine animals around to all those places, and we're educating the kids about them, why they are the way they are, why they're important, and why we need to look after them. So it's a really hard hitting, but it's a really powerful way to get kids to understand the importance of looking after the environment by using the animals. It's the big hook to get them in. My background was Underwater World, or actually did my degree at Griffith University in Brisbane, and then went from there. I did a marine ecologist degree there, and then went and worked at Underwater World for 11.5 years. And I met some pretty amazing people there. One of those was Kevin Tanner, who was the director of the Melbourne Zoo for a long time. He was with Underwater World, and he was there when we were doing all that stuff with SEAWEEK, which was really important. And then I left there, and then we've been running Ocean Life Education for the last 15 years. We got hit in COVID like everyone did. So what did we do? We got busy and tried to do things that we could produce online, so that teachers and people could continue learning and finding out about looking after the environment. So what did we do? We made 10 videos, 5 of which are directly linked to the national curriculum and available on our website at oceanlifeeducation.com. And we cover things like habitats, life cycles, human impact, classification, adaptation. So those are available. Then we also did one with what we can find at the beach, which is also important. And we also have also done another package where we're going to launch it soon with called Amazing Sharks. So obviously with all the pollution, everything that's going on, that which has been the theme so far, which is important, and we do cover that in our human impact segments. We're also talking about sharks and how important they are to the environment and to the ecosystem as a whole in keeping it healthy. And so we've got 4 videos, one of which I'm going to share with you today. We're going to put it as a package online with resources and information about it as well. And I've got a team of people that I'd really like to thank that's helped us out with that, and also with our marketing. Tofi and Annie Gray helped us in the production of those videos and all the videos that we've done, and they've been fantastic professional team, mum and daughter team, and Hayley G, also our marketing and our professional lady that gets all this information out, and our marketing and putting things together for us as well has been awesome in getting this package together. So the 4 units that we've got about sharks is Built to Hunt is the first one. The next one will be The Point of Teeth. Then we've got Why We Need Sharks, which is the one we're going to have a look at today, and also Why Sharks Attack. So we're not avoiding the idea that people come into negative confrontation with sharks, but we do explain why and how to avoid that. So very important education for people then to change their view and their perspective on sharks, so that they learn to appreciate them, and so we learn to look after them. So without further ado, let me just see if I can reduce this, and then where am I going? Let's see if I can do this. I did it before. Just bear with me. Here we go. Let's see if we can get up there. That was my son, by the way, you might have just seen on that screen. All right, is that working? Why is that not? It's working. It's about to work. Here we go. Are we getting that, guys?
No, we can't see the screen.
You can't see it?
We can't see it. You might need to click share screen down the bottom.
Hang on a minute. I knew there'd be something that would go wrong here. Why is the shared screen not coming up? Hang on. Hang on. We're getting there. Hold on. No, that's not. Is that working? You see that?
No, we just see you. Do you
see me? Hang on.
Which is great. It's great.
No,
but,
it's not. I want to share.
do you see the share screen green button down the bottom?
Not on this at the moment. I don't know why, but I'm going to try and.
You might need to hover over with your mouse for it to come up for some places.
Yeah, no, it's just got my bar. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. We did this all right yesterday.
I know, we did.
All right, can you see that screen? No, you can't. All right, so let me just go back to you. Go that one, and then go share screen. And then we go this one. How we got that?
Yep, excellent.
There you go. You can see the old dog new tricks yet, can't you? Here we go. Yeah. All right, here we go. Sorry, guys. Oh, no, we're going the wrong way. Get back there. No, that'll be right. Now I've gone and other way. Here we go. All right. Enjoy. Big intro.
A lot of what we hear and read about sharks in the media today is very negative, but sharks actually play a really important role in the marine ecosystem. Because of their size, speed and hunting skills, sharks are apex predators, which means they sit at the top of the food chain in the ocean. The biggest sharks can target virtually any marine animal, yet they often eat sick, injured and dead creatures, which helps to keep the ocean clean and healthy. By targeting the weaker animals, they help weed out the poor genetics amongst their prey. This ensures that the prey animals pass on their superior genes when it comes time to reproduce. This benefits the species as a whole. Another reason sharks are important is the role they play in keeping animal numbers in check. If we remove apex predators, it will have a flow-on effect to sea life further down the food chains and across the whole marine ecosystem. For example, if a species like the great white shark becomes extinct, then the population of animals that they would normally target as prey, like the seals, their numbers will increase. This then puts pressure on the food sources that they normally eat, like crabs and fish, and then so on down the food chain. And because we eat some of these animals, there would be less for us after a large population of seals had their fill. Not only that, but genetically weak seals would survive and be able to breed, passing on weaker genes to offspring, which in turn could threaten their species' survival in the long run. If we don't protect sharks, this could also affect tourism. People travel from all over the world to dive with sharks, which brings millions of dollars to countries just like Australia. A thriving shark population also guarantees greater species diversity in the ocean, another draw card for divers. So as you can see, there are many reasons why sharks are so important to our planet. Healthy oceans need healthy apex predators. Coming up next, let's find out why some sharks attack humans.
There we go. So, let's get out of that. All right. So now we're back to me full screen. How are we getting me back there? Sarah Jo?
Yeah, no, you are full screen. We can see you.
All right. Well, so thanks for that. It's sort of neat. It's not overly done, over the top. We try not to make it too complex, but just quite fun and easy to understand. So that's just part of that package that we've put out there. And then there's a whole lot of questions, and each section that is with the video is also a quiz and other information and resources that people can pull out of there. So it's a really fun way to learn about sharks. So we learn to look after them. You may have noticed, I'm going to do a little shameful plug here, that you might have seen this guy in some of the shots. This is Ollie. He's our ambassador for looking after and for keeping the oceans clean of plastic pollution. So you would have seen that. That's the little backpack that he's wearing. So Ollie is obviously a unashameful acronym, Ocean Life Education, OLE. But we thought that would be a good name for him. And so we take him around and we're going to educate and look after the kids to make sure that with Ollie's help, we're going to be picking up bits of plastic and rubbish pollution off the ocean. And we've made these bags available for people as well. We don't want to sell the bags for a profit. We just need enough to cover the cost of producing them. But the idea is getting that message out to the kids and into the public so that we can learn to pick up the rubbish, and a cute, fun way of doing that. So that's what we've been about. We've been busy. We're happy to be doing work over the SEAWEEK period, which we've been doing over the last few years as well, and visiting schools and childcare centres as well. So that's it from me. Hopefully I haven't eaten up too much of everyone's time. Thank you for listening, and good luck with SEAWEEK. Hope we have a successful build and get it rolling into the future.
Thanks so much, Richard.
No worries. Thank you.
All right. I see John's ready. So I'll head straight into John for Marine Explorer.
Thanks, Sarah Jo. Thanks for inviting me along. I'm a marine ecologist at the University of New South Wales and underwater photographer, but in my spare time, I have a passion for documenting diversity. So I just have a small prezzo because the work that I do in my spare time may be of interest to you as educators. Share my screen. Hopefully you can see that. A picture of some smiley faces.
Yep, I can see it. Looks good.
Okay. So this is taken about a week ago. This is Norfolk Island. We're over there as volunteers documenting the marine diversity around the island for about 2 weeks. But whilst we're volunteers, in this photo, there are 4 marine scientists and 1 marine park ranger. So the sort of work we do as volunteers is also highly backed, if you like, by the science. And about 8 years ago, one of the things that I realised in doing this sort of stuff, trying to document diversity and show people the underwater world, is there are a few questions that get asked a lot that really didn't have good answers. And those questions were things like, if you say live in Sydney or Melbourne or anywhere around the coast, one of the questions is, well, what lives near me? Often it's, what is this? I've got this photograph of a fish or something in a rock pool. What is it? And then the third one is often, can I get hold of pictures that I'm allowed to use? You know, these days, a lot of photographs, but often they have licensing on them and so on. So I started Marine Explorer to try and address these three questions, and that was in 2013. The first two now, in my view, are better answered by the Reef Life Survey online tools, and that was a Reef Life Survey trip of that previous photo. This presentation is not about Reef Life Survey, but that's one of the things I do. But the third one, can I get my hands on some pictures or videos I might use in a lesson or I might use in class, and can I do that in a way that I don't have to pay? That's still something that Marine Explorer is focused on. So over the last 8 years, I've built up an online library of about 10,000 photographs of marine life and about 170 videos. There are also online articles, and we published a book called Underwater Sydney. And the thing with this library, first of all, every single photograph in it is Creative Commons non-commercial with attribution. So you can download any photograph of those 10,000 and use it, so long as it's not for commercial purposes. And the other thing is, because we're scientists and because we spend a lot of time documenting diversity, you can be pretty confident that the IDs and so on in this library are correct. So here's an example of some of the albums in the Marine Explorer libraries. So I categorize things in lots of different ways. So you can see here there's an album of 140 pictures of sea snails, 600 photos of seagrass and algae, 600 photos of nudibranchs, 250 photos of sharks and rays. They're typically all flagged with a location, a scientific name and a common name. So that hopefully is a resource you can use to quickly search and say, well, I want to do something on the sharks that live in Sydney. Will you be able to find them quickly and use that information? So one of the best ways of searching, and these libraries, so there's a Marine Explorer website and you can go through that, but you can also go straight into where the libraries are, which are in Flickr. And pretty much any sort of search you want to do, common name, scientific name, other information, so long as you put the tag #MarineExplorer, which is on every single photo, you then will know that you're getting photos up that you can use in various educational contexts. The other thing I'd say is, if ever you want to use my stuff in a lesson or in something graphical or exercise with kids, I'd love to hear about it, because I like to sort of get feedback to think that it's all been worthwhile. There's also a regular post on social media, typically daily, and I try to make these educational. So if you follow the Marine Explorer Facebook group or page, or follow on Twitter, or follow on Instagram, there's often, hey, the animal for today is this. Did you know it has these interesting characteristics? And the forum, the Marine Explorer forum, is designed for questions and other people to contribute. So always happy for people to post a photo on there. Hey, what's this that we found when we went out for a field trip somewhere? There's also a bunch of videos. These tend to be stories about something. So you can see the top one there was the surveys we did in Sydney last year. So it's got, you know, video of us doing the surveys, how we do it, how we write underwater on paper, all that sort of stuff. Often kids ask about. I might also do stuff on, say, weedy sea dragons. See the eighth one in the list there is about a project that we've got where we're monitoring weedy sea dragons in southern Australia. So there's a bunch of videos. They're not very well organised, other than just you just need to search for them and see if you want to, you know, if you're looking for something on sharks, you'll find there are a few videos on that, or something on marine science, you'll find videos on that, and so on. And on the website, there's also a bunch of articles. This is the book, but there's underneath this, if you scroll down, There are scientific articles as well as popular articles. And I do quite regular public lectures and so on. So there's often something in there from a recent lecture or a recent magazine article. So to find out more, feel free to contact me, john@marineexplorer.org, if you're interested in asking about using any material or anything like that. Or you can just get involved through the social media. If you search for Marine Explorer and you get the little orange and white sea star, you know that's Marine Explorer. And then the final thing is really the motivation for this in the very beginning was this idea that one of the best ways to engage people in the underwater world is just to show it to them. It's such a cool and interesting place and so foreign, really. The animals are so interesting that often it's, in my view, if you can just sort of publicise what's under the waves, often on your doorstep, that's a positive step. So really anything that people can do to share the stuff on social media or use the material, to me, makes it worthwhile, because ultimately, if we're going to conserve something, we have to care about it. And in order to care about it, we have to understand it and know about it. So that's it from me.
Thank you so much, John. I know you wouldn't be watching the comments, but everyone's going that they love the resource. So definitely thank you very much. And I just want to put a little thing in there. I love what you've got down the bottom. To conserve, we must care. To care, we must understand. And that's, you know, one of the, you know, a main focus of ocean literacy, to understand the importance of the ocean. So thank you so much, John. That was amazing. So we have here, next is Karen from Australian Environmental Education and Virtual Excursions Australia. And she has some amazing things to tell us that she has going for SEAWEEK, but also throughout the year.
Excellent. Thank you very much for having me. And John, I have to say the last bit that you were talking about is, you know, using the local. Some of the video conferences I've been doing are about my experience scuba diving in Sydney. And I have to say, I use one of your awesome sponge garden images to inspire the children about something that looks completely different to what they may think of is what's in the marine environment. And I, really tend to use my experiences and I call it my journey beneath the waves. So it's really specific to what I've seen and my experiences, and really just want to touch on what everyone's already spoken about is trying to sort of make it real and create those experiences, and the kids can ask me direct questions. So I guess my background has come from the Australian Museum. I worked there in education and visitor programs for over 20 years, and I left in 2019 to focus a little bit more on that direct interaction with students, talking to vacation care, early childhood centres, schools, and really doing a lot of stuff with digital as well. So that touched on, exploring and interacting with children that don't get access to the marine environment. The session I had earlier today was with a school that's probably 5 hours from the coast, and they were just absolutely fascinated. It was mostly them just asking me questions. What have I seen? Did I like it? Was I scared? Was there a shark? All of those kinds of things that we've kind of heard coming through the sessions today. And they were then able to have a real tangible experience of what it might be like, and showing pictures and telling stories. I also show some of the equipment. I started doing some marine video conferences last year when, of course, we couldn't go on site to any schools during COVID, and thought, well, I'll just do them online, and was having great responses from kids. But a lot of the time they were asking me about the stuff, and it didn't occur to me. I take it for granted, diving for over 25 years, of the stuff that I need. So I was really fascinated by the students wanting to know things about, you know, what I'm wearing, where I get my air from. So I actually show my BC, I show my mask, you know, and I talk to them about the fact that I have a prescription mask because I wear glasses, that some of the things that kids might feel are an obstacle for them interacting, like wearing glasses. Kids have been asking me about asthma, and, you know, things that they might see as an obstacle and solutions to those. So I show my reg as well. And they absolutely love it. Half the session that I think is going to be 5 minutes ends up being 20 minutes of them, you know, wanting to know more. Someone asked me how heavy it all was the other day, and I was like, oh, I've never really thought about it. So it's been really amazing being able to do the digital programs and connect with students that never would have been able to come to see me in person, or that I wouldn't have been able to travel that far to see them in person as well. So it really gives us the opportunity to go Australia-wide and global. I've done these sessions with kids in America. I had someone in Japan, and it was great to be able to hear their experiences and how they interact with their marine environments. This particular student in Japan was quite close to the coast and was talking about the stuff that he sees on the rock platforms near where he lives. So just being able to have that cultural exchange as well, and then to always pull together those messages of, again, that interconnectedness of what we do on land and how that impacts the marine environment. So I also, when I left the museum, I started my own website to put out not just marine environment resources, but just general education resources on the environment and sustainability. So again, most of what I write is linked to my experiences, my journey, what I'm doing in my own backyard to be more sustainable, what I'm doing in my own backyard to create wildlife friendly environments, what I'm doing in my experiences if I go beach combing, you know, reminding people that, you know, not to take things from places, but also take a bag to remove rubbish, that or every piece of rubbish and litter that you remove from the marine environment is one step closer to having cleaner beaches. And just reminding kids and adults that those small steps can make a big difference over time. Some of the other programs I've done linked to the story of water, and it's one of those ones that's been going around for a really long time, and I've have delivered these with early childhood centres all the way up to high school students, about just that visual representation of what water looks like when it moves through the environment. So I do it linked to over time as well. So thinking about traditional owners and sustainability of our land and what's happened in the last 250 years and the changes. I've also linked in recently with the bushfires and the impacts of, you know, ash going into the water as well, and also, you know, lack of vegetation and runoff, and all of those things ultimately ending up in our ocean environments. And the kids are always blown away when they can see this clear water ending up into, you know, this stylized turbid mess of rubbish and plastics and debris. And then we talk about what you can do to start cleaning those things up. And I find that visual representation, as a lot of you have spoken about today, is just so effective. You know, the hands-on, they're adding these different materials into the water as we tell a story of that water moving from the mountains to the sea. So it always amazes me how much the kids get out of it. And it ends up being a little bit long. So even though when I'm doing it with younger children, I try to reduce it, because of their interest and their engagement. You know, we can have them just sitting there around a circle telling a story for, you know, half an hour as they're watching it. So it always amazes me how engaged they are with, you know, with linking to those hands-on programs as well. So also on my website, I do a lot of blogs again about those stories. So I've got lots of diving, you know, every time I go for a dive, I'll write a blog about what I may have seen. And then again, trying to remind people about what's happening in the marine environment and what I may have seen if I'm seeing lots of rubbish or I'm seeing species that I might not have seen for a while, or things that I usually see that aren't there. So that those messages I always try to embed into both virtual excursions, on-site programs, but also when I'm writing resources for school kids as well. So it's been a really interesting journey leaving a big organisation like the Australian Museum to a single, essentially just me. So it's been a great journey to use all of the wonderful information I've gained over the years to bring it back to where I am now and the things that I'm passionate about and exploring. So I've got a couple of slides that I will share you, and essentially it's that beginning of that journey beneath the waves, and I'll just spend a couple of minutes highlighting some of those. Let me see, share screen. So very familiar photo for anyone that's been under the water. So I even just talk to the kids about the fact that I wear a lycra or a rash vest, a full body one, when I go snorkeling as well, so I don't have sunscreens and those kinds of things coming off into the water, that I wear gloves, got my prescription mask. We talk about safety as well. It's one of the things I really like to push, that, you know, it is something that you do with a person. You don't do it on your own. This is my dive buddy for the last 25 years, which is my sister. And then we talk again about safety, that we're doing buddy checks and then pointing out all of the equipment. And then I unshare my screen and show the physical equipment as well. And as I mentioned, they're really fascinated by that. And I always focus on the animals that I'm absolutely passionate about. So for me, it's always a great dive if I get to see a cuttlefish. And then we do so many things linked to cuttlefish behaviour, linked to colour change, texture change, and habitat as well. And I tell a fun story about that dive site that I had the picture on before, the Haven at the Central Coast, and one of their big stingrays up there, and some of my encounters with that stingray over the years when I've been diving. So I really like to share those stories. And because we can do a lot through virtual excursions, it means that we can connect with anyone, anywhere, almost any time. You know, the time differences in other parts of the world. So, you know, it may be an odd time for them, but it could be a great time for you. So if anyone is interested doing virtual excursions, please let me know. I've got my contact details here. Because I'm also the director of Virtual Excursions Australia, which is my other hat. And again, it's a volunteer organisation, but we support with training about how to deliver engaging video conferences to students, and also what technology you may need. And we do training, and we've got lots of videos to help people out. So if anyone is interested doing more with Virtual Excursions Australia, we also can help advertise your programs, so you can get especially the New South Wales schools through the distance and rural technologies. And that's what we were doing this week for SEAWEEK, to recognise that we had Maritime Museum, Australian Museum, State Library, all delivering sort of marine SEAWEEK themed programs, and we were able to advertise those and promote them across many audiences. And we do lots of different themed programs that way. So if you are interested, please let me know, and we can help with training and facilitate your movement into virtual excursions. If it's something you only tried out in 2020 but you'd like to do more, or if it's something that you've not necessarily thought about delivering directly online. So there we go. I think that's probably my time up. So thank you very much for having me as well this afternoon. It's been wonderful to hear all of the amazing programs that are out there, and it's wonderful to be involved.
Thank you so much, Karen. Okay, we'll head straight into Claudette from Ocean Youth.
Thank you. And oh my gosh, Karen, I think we need to chat. I've got a very, very similar situation actually, which I will go into now. Where are we? Can we see my screen at all?
Not yet, no.
Okay. Have I pressed share screen?
No, you need to press share screen.
Oh gosh, another Luddite. Sorry. Here we go. There we go. All righty.
Done. Yep.
All right. Okay, so thanks for that. So my name's Claudette, and I run a program called Ocean Youth, and currently under Ocean Future Fund. And like Karen, I actually started this program when I was running the Sea Life Conservation Trust. So I was based at Sea Life Sydney, but I was running conservation through all the aquaria in Australia and New Zealand. So I too have come from a fairly big background, a very nice, supportive, big company that was supportive of marine conservation, and have since gone out on my own with Ocean Future Fund. But we managed to continue Ocean Youth as a program, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. And I just have to say, the amazing organisations and initiatives here today, we've got so many opportunities to collaborate, so that is pretty exciting. So Ocean Youth, basically it's a hybrid program. Thanks to COVID, we were forced, like many others, to go largely online last year, but it's predominantly been a face-to-face program to engage, to build the capacity of young people who are to influence positive action for our oceans. So when I was down at the aquarium, I was getting a lot of inquiries from teenagers. The aquarium tends to target families and younger children, and there was nothing actually around to focus on this age group. So I did a few focus groups, and we realised that there's actually a lot of interest from this age group to get involved in taking action for oceans. They understand some of these big challenges, and they want to go beyond, focusing on the challenges and understanding what they actually can do to make a difference. So the principle that humans and oceans are inextricably linked basically forms the foundation of the program. So our mission is to build a global community of young leaders and change makers to influence positive action for our oceans. So the strategy for the face-to-face component, and we operate out of Sydney, Melbourne, Sunshine Coast, Auckland, now Dunedin. I'm sure I've missed one in there. We're actually growing our chapter base. It's about getting young people to the oceans, because as we are all really aware, more and more young people are not actually getting outdoors. We're all really busy. So it's actually led to this, the whole concept of nature deficit. So the primary goal of ours is to actually get young people connected to the outdoors and oceans in particular. Overwhelming feedback from our program is that meeting each other, meeting like-minded people who care as much as they do, has had the biggest benefits for them. They're often feeling quite isolated in their school environments because they care so much, and they don't feel as though their peers may care as much as they do. And so meeting like-mindeds is one of the biggest pull factors for our participants. Education, obviously, it's a core of what we do. Action, it's all about taking, building their capacity to ideate some of their own solutions, or certainly share some of the solutions that many of our collaborative partners are actually taking part in. And network, we've all got a huge, very supportive, extensive network. So some of these young people coming through are just starting up, and they're really, really keen to find out what a career pathway might look like for them, given their interests and passions in this area. So the program's underpinned by SDG 14, and in particular, the first 4 objectives of pollution, overfishing, acidification, and habitat restoration or protection. But we also do a bit of, consumption and reduction of materials, as well as climate action. Why this age group? Well, as one of our young people said, they might be 25% of the demographic, but they're 100% of the future. And that can't get any more succinct than that. So we feel as though by educating and equipping the young people coming through, when they become employees, leaders, business owners, the philosophies and values are entrenched. And we just got a bit of feedback from our Instagram account recently that one of our participants who thought he was going to be a marine biologist when he was participating in the program has gone on to become an engineer, but a very environmentally aware engineer thanks to the program. So that's a tick for us. We've done our job. It's not just about becoming marine biologists. It's about taking a lot of these learnings and values and understandings, wherever they go. So the program basically at the moment is hopefully 2021 going well, face to face, getting back to connecting our young people to the oceans in nature-based experiences. We have got outreach in schools on there, but there's a lot of organisations who are working with outreach in schools, and we don't yet have that capacity. So we're more than happy to collaborate with others who are also doing work in this space. Distance education, we're getting a lot of young people who are approaching us from all four corners of the globe. We've had West Africa, Central Africa, Philippines, Malaysia, Canada, writing to us and asking how we can help them, support them, influence positive change in their communities. So the force to digital work last year actually helped us by expanding our reach to some of these participants further afield. As mentioned, Objective 1 is connecting young people to the ocean. Same thing, if we don't understand it, we don't get to love it, and we won't do much about it. And that's one of our primary objectives. So as part of the program to date, as I said, we've been going since 2015, so we're now in our 6th year. Our participants have snorkeled with sea dragons, whales, sharks. They've gone swimming with whales up on the Sunshine Coast with the operator up there that's got one of the only licenses to swim with whales up there. They've been citizen scientists doing litter surveys on many, many beaches. They've been fortunate enough to work alongside sea life aquarists to do health checks and releases of rescued animals. We've kayaked, we've snorkeled, and they've been fairly key in creating media and certainly being recipients of some media attention. So we do some skills-based stuff with them, because one thing is to connect to the ocean. The other part is building the capacity and the confidence to use their voice and initiative to influence change. So learning presentation skills. Some of our participants have actually given guest presentations down at the aquariums, which is incredibly inspiring to watch. As I mentioned, they've been involved with media. We trialled a pilot of CTV where it was young people engaging with industry and marine professionals. And we were looking to see if we could get some funding to expand that pilot. They've learnt event coordination skills. They've honed their pitches. So the program culminates in a pitch fest, which I'll talk about in a moment. So Objective 2 is about building the Ocean Youth Tribe. So as mentioned, one of the biggest benefits of the program is connecting like-mindeds to each other. And we didn't realise that that would actually be one of the most overwhelmingly, one of the biggest pieces of feedback from the program was actually connecting young people to each other, or ocean-loving or environment-loving young people with each other. But at our first pitch fest, we had parents coming up to us saying that they wouldn't know where their child was had it not been for the program, because they did feel so isolated. So they've been snorkeling and doing all these amazing things in nature, but it's actually connecting to each other that has been of most value. We often have our young people take over our Instagram account to share the things that are important for them, to learn those digital media skills. And the final objective of the program is to actually go out and make change. So we host a pitch fest where they learn project ideation skills, how they're actually going to hone their pitch, what it is exactly that they want to do and how are they going to do it, who do they need involved in their project ideas, and they get to pitch those ideas at an annual pitch fest. You can see some of these pitches from last year on our YouTube channel because of digital, we had to do everything digitally. We actually got to record their pitches and put them on YouTube, which we hope to continue to do. And viable projects that have got some legs, we either provide them with mentoring or mentorship from professionals within our network, or some seed funding, or both, to take their ideas to the next stage. So some of the projects that have come out of the Ocean Youth participants have been Lucy Skelton with her Student Voice Network. She's gone on to work with 7 odd universities and a range of schools on a student-led capacity building advocacy network, and she's going great guns with that. Kaitiaki Company were 4 of our Ocean Youth participants getting together. They designed their own reusable coffee cups, and then they actually sold them to raise funds for another marine organisation run by youth. And they're looking to actually stock their reusable cups in a fairly hefty supermarket chain. And with proceeds going to various marine conservation charities. So we're super stoked for them. Be Happy bags, coconutty bottles. Tilsey wants to put reusable natural fibres to filtrate and sanitise water in East Timor. So we're working to see how we can, who is in our network to take that idea to the next level. And Peter Pen Project is about taking rubbish from the Yarra River and turning them into pens that would then be sold to continue manufacturing these products in a circular economy kind of product. So these are just some examples of what they've come up with. They continuously blow us all away with their ideas and passion. So the program actually went on to win a couple of awards with MSC because we do feature sustainable seafood in the program, and many of our participants have actually worked with MSC on a range of their initiatives. And these are some of our amazing young people. One just won the Northern Beaches Council Young Person of the Year Award, Clean Up, Clean Keep Victoria Beautiful Awards. Lucy just won the Environmental Education Victoria Awards, and the 2 below just were the first 2 global representatives to be on the World Oceans Day Youth Council. So 2 of them came from our Ocean Youth program. And this is from 1,200 applicants from around the world. So they're doing amazing things, these young people. Feedback from them, it's the best experience they've had. And again, it comes down to connecting with each other and also us, as marine educators. They're hugely fascinated in what we do and inspired by what we're all doing. And it gives them ideas on what they can actually do to make the world a better place and give themselves a better future. Again, more feedback, importance of working in a team, support and passion, all the good stuff. So this was Jesper. It was his first time that he'd actually connected with people who cared about the environment, and he actually became a bit overwhelmed. He was really quite incredibly intelligent and felt very isolated. So he thrived in a program such as this. As mentioned, our existing locations are Sydney, Melbourne, Auckland, Sunshine Coast. We just brought on Dunedin as a holiday program, and we're now in Kota Kinabalu, Borneo. They're actually hosting their program as we speak this month and next. And we're looking to start up some new locations in Launceston. We know the National Aquarium in Napier is going to start the program next year. And I'm just talking to the Southern Institute of Technology in Invercargill about starting one, because one of our participants in Dunedin, or this particular person heard about the program in Dunedin and said, I want to participate, but it was too far away. So I scoured, the city to see where might be a suitable partner, or who might be a suitable partner to deliver a program. And we're in discussion next week. So hopefully that translates to something. So as always, I'm a big collaborator. Like Karen, I've gone from a big organisation to on my own, but there's so many different pieces of the puzzle that we can all offer each other, and this is a collaborative program. So it's all about hooking into the network, sharing all this amazing resource for our young people to inspire them to actually go forth and make positive change for our oceans. So starting new chapters in new locations, collaborating on events, sharing networks and spaces, and sharing resources and cross-promoting. Always happy to do that. And as Annabelle, one of our very first participants, she was shy as anything when she started with us, could barely say her name. She went on to do an all-school assembly about the importance of marine education, marine conservation, and won a grant with Tomorrow's Future Fund to kit herself out in all the gear so she could start telling her underwater stories. So yeah, she's gone on to do her bit for our oceans. So that's it from me. And that's all about Ocean Youth. And thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Claudette. That's amazing. There's a few questions in the chat for you and some comments about different locations. So I might let you answer them via the chat function.
Sure.
And we'll head into Ricky now from Plastic Oceans Australasia.
I think the screen, Claudette, is still being shared.
So Claudette, can you just go up the top and press unshare screen, or down the bottom actually, sorry for you, it will be. Perfect, there you go.
There we go.
Done, thank you.
Oh. There we go, sorry.
That's all right. I can do it from here. Okay, Ricky, you should be all right now.
So I'm not sure if that's coming on. Can you see me?
I can see you, but have you sharing screen yet, or you're just presenting?
No, I was just going to start and then I'll share my screen in a minute if you want to put it on. Yeah. So hi everyone. So amazing, all the information to date. I am really excited to be here and thank you so much for the opportunity. I just think Claudette and Karen and so many of the other presenters with what you've put forward is just amazing, and we're all about collaboration as well. So I've got a little bit to show and I'll bring that up on my screen and hopefully it will share with you in just now. So I just get that going from the beginning. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can, Ricky. Looks great.
Okay, fantastic. So, so Plastic Oceans Australasia, we have been around for 4 years, coming up to our 4th year, and we're sort of the baby of Plastic Oceans, the UK, and our claim to claim originally was through the Plastic Ocean movie that came out, produced by Joe Ruxton, who's the founder of Plastic Oceans. So we kicked off in Canberra at Parliament House in August 2017 and started our work here. So our mission is to change the world's attitude towards plastic within generation. Lots and lots of people talking about a lot of things to do with single-use plastic today. And obviously it's one of the biggest issues that we've got aligned with climate change, with what we're doing with plastic. This picture on the screen is actually hot off the press. We were in Albury-Wodonga on the weekend with our Upstream Festival, and we were working with some schools there and the councils. And these are the kids just doing their first audit with us. So I thought it might be good to have something really, really fresh that we've just done. What do we do? So we work, we're part of a global alliance. So we work in all over the world, but in Australia, our reach is Australia, obviously New Zealand, the islands, we do Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand. So we've got a really, really big reach in our area of what we're working on. So we do a lot of work in that case, we're doing a lot of work online and virtually, because obviously we don't have people everywhere to travel. So I'm really interested in what Karen was saying about what she's doing with her incursions. That'll be very interesting to talk to you about. So we work across education, business, science and research. Everything we do is underpinned by our science and research, because we believe very much in the facts and figures of what we're developing and producing. And our main purpose with everything that we're doing is to look about changing people's habits. So very similar to what a lot of us are already talking about today. It's all about getting to talking to people when they're young, getting them to do activities, getting them involved and getting them to really want to make a change with what they're doing from the early days. We looked with our business sustainability unit, we have a business program that we run for workplaces called our EPIC program, and it's basically a mirror image of what we do with our education program for schools. And we obviously work also in government advocacy, do a lot of campaigning. So we kind of go up and down from macro to micro and everything in between. So one of the things that has really been a big positive with the work that we've been doing has been the education program. And our program runs from primary school all the way through to secondary school, and now we're also going into tertiary institutions. So we're probably a little bit different to some of the other packages that are out there at the moment, or offerings from some of the others, which is really great for me to see what everyone's doing in the different levels, and also for you guys what we're offering here. Our program is a little bit different in that we actually run it over a 12-month period. And so we actually have education officers that go out and are assigned to a school, and we go through that whole journey and we work through the program and ensure that we have really positive long-term outcomes. And our whole ethos is about, there's a very well-known saying, particularly for older people like myself that have been doing this for a really long time. You know, they used to say, it takes a village to bring up a child. Well, for us, we've kind of reverse engineered what we do. We say it actually takes the child to bring up the village, particularly when it comes to talking about plastic pollution, about waste, about the marine issues. And so that's really what we've done with our program, is that we run it over a long period of time. And as I've mentioned, our focus is on the single-use plastic, and all our materials are aligned with the Australian national curriculum, and we follow that very carefully, as well as the other programs in the other countries. So we try and make sure that they can just embed it straight into their work program without having to do anything extra, which is really good for the teachers, because as we all know, teachers are really busy, they're time poor, and they just want things to be easy. So our program really has resonated, and the program has helped us expand into other areas in the business, community groups, as I mentioned before, and can really be applied anywhere, not just with schools and school kids. It can go pretty much in any space that we want it to. So these are just some pictures to show you some of the things that we've been doing. There's some kids there doing an audit, working through their posters and their planning. We do a lot of very detailed hand-on activities with the kids, and we really ensure that they learn from this and they take it back home. So it's about the whole school engagement that we do, coming from school, back home, back to school again. And we get a lot of stories. It's all about storytelling going through that 12-month period, and we do incursions, excursions. Last year was a really interesting year for us because of COVID. We actually were able to do a lot more remote learning by being online, and we found that our program really exploded because people, and the teachers in particular, were really looking for a lot more resources that they could just use quickly online to work with the kids from home, because they weren't able to teach with them face to face. So we, as I mentioned about the primary and the secondary schools, so we have all these various resources both for teachers and for the children. On the panel there with the secondary school, we have our Ocean Discovery Days, which is has been really, really successful and being used in other countries as well. And it's a 3-day challenge program, which is available to schools wherever. And it's a good one if we find that they don't want to take up a 12-month program with us, they just want to do a quick entry in. And again, it's something that it might be of interest to other educators here today, and I'd be happy to share that information later. So last year, unbeknown to us and unbeknown to all of us, we didn't know in November of 2019 that we were going to obviously have COVID, and we launched our first film competition, which was basically a competition between Australian and New Zealand schools, secondary school students only on this occasion. And the program was is free to enter, and we called it Turn the Tide, and it was a way to actually try and get collaboration between countries and schools, not just within, I suppose, clusters and groups that we work closely with in a state or likewise areas. So even with the lockdown with COVID, we were actually blown away with the amount of entries that we got, because they actually, and I'll explain a little bit more about it, and I'll be going on to, I'm hoping that my little video here will work. It's a promo clip that we've done, and I'll see if it does work. I'm not sure if it's going to. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't look like it's going to work. I've got a link that I'll put into the chat box so you can watch it in your afterwards. So this promo video was done actually by 2 of our students that actually were in the program, and their school was one of the entry schools. So I'll just go back to this and then go forward, because obviously my clip's not working, and explain a little bit more about the program. So we had 34 schools that actually entered, and because of COVID, the kids couldn't actually be on the school doing a film. So it's about preparing a film of their journey, going through how they went single-use plastic free over the 12-month period. So obviously many of the kids weren't actually at school, they weren't able to do anything. So we launched in November, it started in February, and then in March, particularly like we're based in Melbourne, but a lot of the schools, you know, had lockdowns at different times. So they couldn't really do a lot, and they just worked in between snippets and put together their stories. So we were still really, really amazed at what came back, and our three winning schools, which are actually in the little promo, did an amazing job. So the winning school was actually in Queensland, and the runner-up was from the Northern Territory, and the third school that won the third prize was actually in New Zealand. So we're really, really glad that we had a New Zealand school that actually came in as well. So we had them from both sides of the Tasman. And the school that has won, the actual prizes, we wanted to give kids an adventure of what money can't buy kind of experience. So the group that actually made the video, they actually have a day trip where they are. So that's, in this case, it's going to be in Brisbane, where they're going out to experience a day, a marine environmental day of adventure. And the 2 winning students, as in the 2 top leaders from that group, are actually going to be going to New Zealand and actually experiencing a 4-day trip, going on the Northern Island with our supporters of that prize, which is a SUP Pro Paddle, and they do amazing education trips with kids and paddling, yoga, taking them to cultural experiences. So those kids are going to have a trip of a lifetime, which is from entering this competition. So, and then there's a second and third prize. So I won't go into that right now just because of timing. And I know that I'm nearly at the end of the number of people before me. So I know that people probably are keen to get moving. So with the competition, we did call it Turn the Tide last year. But this year, we've decided, because of the importance of the ocean and the connectedness to the ocean, and that's why I was really delighted for us to be able to soft launch this today. We've called it Oceans in Motion, and that's in line also with the UN and the Decade of Ocean focus, that we will then continue to run this every single year. So they, as the screen says, they embark on reducing plastic at their school. They show us the journey of what they're doing, and then they share it with us so we can celebrate the successes. So all the things that have been mentioned before, like particularly Karen and Claudette, your students and your schools and the excursions, things that you're doing, are all part of that journey, and they would be delighted if they wanted to enter, because that means that they can come in for these wonderful prizes to show their journey, which it looks like they're doing already terrific things. So we're really pleased to say that we're launching the soft launch today. The expression of interest will be open on the 18th of March, as on my screen that you can see here. And the school just enters, puts their expression of interest in, and then we will help them. There'll be information and a pack online of what they need to do for the terms and conditions, but it's pretty straightforward. And again, this year we are still holding it for secondary school only. We will look at opening it up for primary and secondary school. And also we are going to be doing this in other countries. But for this year, because we had a real delay last year, we weren't able to do as much as we'd hoped, we're going to keep it pretty much the same format as what we did last year. And there will be a 20-minute short film available for people to look at about all of those entries that I've talked about, which we've put into like a short movie. And all the initiatives and the things that these kids have come up with has just been absolutely amazing. So again, it's great takeaways for what's already very well documented by other organisations here. So that's our announcements for today is us actually going through with our Oceans in Motions film competition. So I hope if any of you would like to enter, or anybody would like to enter, we would be delighted, of course, to accept their entries. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say today. And thank you so much, Sarah Jo and the team, for inviting Plastic Oceans Australasia to be on board and part of this. And we're looking forward again to next SEAWEEK next year. I do want to just finish by mentioning last year we did a webinar for your SEAWEEK, and we had a wonderful young lady as one of our ambassadors, Scarlett Rosshandler, and she has been running an amazing petition to eliminate soy sauce bottles, particularly here in the city of Melbourne. And she spoke on our webinar, and it was really wonderful to hear her story. And again, so inspiring to have these kids as the leaders. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ricky. Now we've got Karen, I think, in here. She's going to talk to us about beach kinder. Have I got, there she is.
Here I am. Hi. How you going?
Good, good. Thank you for lasting this long.
That's okay.
All right. So are you sharing your screen right now, or are you going to, okay, beautiful.
Yeah, I can share my screen. Thank you. So yeah, thanks for having me, everybody, and for inviting me along. My presentation is going to be a little bit different to all of yours because I'm a kindergarten teacher and I teach at Balnarring Preschool, which is down on the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. So I'm just going to, hopefully that's my screen, and that's my, excellent. Okay, so I'm down on the Mornington Peninsula. I just first of all like to acknowledge that I am meeting with you today on Boonwurrung country, and I thank the First Peoples for sharing their knowledge and stories about the land, and I pay my respects to elders past and present and acknowledge any First Peoples here with us today. So this is just a quick map of the Mornington Peninsula. So right down the bottom, you can see there's French Island and Phillip Island, and Balnarring Beach is opposite Phillip Island. So we look out onto Phillip Island. And this is our Learning and Living with Nature on Boonwurrung Country program that we run. It started in 2015. Initially as a response to children's lives being super busy, and how can we slow them down and help them be in the present and look around them and be in the moment. So I'm just going to show you some images of the children learning out on Boonwurrung country. We are guided by Elder Carolyn Briggs on our learning about nature and the impact that we have on the seas and lands and the waterways. This is a little bit of our environment that we're in. So Balnarring Beach is really beautiful, probably one of the best beaches in the world. We just might not have the climate to go with it, but it's often quite quiet on that beach. It's not a really popular tourist place except right in the summer months when we're not there, and it has quite a long quite high and low tide, especially around that full moon time. So the children go down to Balnarring Beach 5 hours once a week, and we spend that time learning about that environment, but also learning how to be within that environment. So taking the time to notice the things that are around us and we learn about the sea life, the sand life, the tidal life, the rock pool life. We've got the tea tree space. We've got a woodlands or bush space as well that we learn about. So all the areas that also surround that beach environment. This is one of the big rock platforms that we have access to, and the children sitting there up on a cliff. So we can see that in marine environment from lots of different angles that stimulates our wondering and our thinking about what's the water doing, what are we learning about it, what are the stories that the environment's telling us. So what are the stories that the creatures that we see when it's low tide, high tide? What are the stories that the waves are telling us? We have a pod of dolphins that visit us. So what story do they tell us when we see them frolicking in the waves? Always talking to the children about their stories in this landscape. And some of them you can see and some of them you can't see. Obviously, with being on the beach, the environment can change from week to week. So each time the children go out, they're learning a different part of that, about that environment, and a different story that that environment has to tell them. Talking about the action of the waves, what do they do, that they're strong, how do they move. We talk about all the different seaweeds, and if we know the answers about, you know, more about the scientific side of those seaweeds, but we don't always know that. So it's left the children just with wondering and thinking for themselves, which is great skills for them to carry forward. And we also focus a lot on being risk takers and being brave and working out when you can do things. So those two children out on that seaweed island there are being super courageous on that day. This is just another quite low tide. This was actually just last week. So that's one of the rock platforms that we have access to. And this is the opposite side, another rock platform. And they're quite different. This one is lots of rocks that don't move. So this is more looking within the rock pools and seeing all the different gardens, if you like, the sea gardens, and thinking about what's living in those. Whereas the other end, the rocks we can turn over and we can see what lives underneath those. The photo on the left is looking down on that beach. So it's really special space, and just showing you some of the other areas. And also it's not just always about the actual creatures that live in that space or the fauna. It's also about how can the children use that space in a respectful way. This is a little bit of the bush environment that's behind the beach. So the children also learn about that, and within the Aboriginal culture, the things that happened in the bush were reflected in the sea. So for instance, when the wattles are flowering, then I think it's one of the eels are running or something like that. I'm not very good at that, sorry. But the knowledge that's held within the bush is reflected in the sea. So when we're given access to that knowledge, we share that with the children. These are just our aims of the program. I'm not going to go through those, but it's about obviously the natural environment, but also about connecting, about being, a really strong focus on relationships. So relationships with each other, relationships with the land, relationships with the animals and the plants, and with the First Peoples. And those aims are tweaked a little bit each year as our knowledge and our experience with these programs grow. This is a bit of our philosophy around this program. And while we've got the program at the beach, our program back at our centre also reflects that connection with the land and nature and First Peoples perspective. So it's happening through everything that we do. It's not just the day that we go into that natural environment. Just a few more examples of children playing and exploring and learning and thinking about the stories that are within these environments. Just going to quickly go through these. And we also encourage families to come along and help us. So in this instance, that's a grandfather. So he's actually grew up in the area. So he's come and shared what he knows about that environment. So we're looking for our families to be the experts of these spaces as well. So those relationships are really, really important. A girl up on the right-hand side is just an example about it's time to be, and she's just sitting on the top of the cliff face there, looking out over the bay, Western Port Bay, and just being. And I think being is a really important thing for us to all be doing, and slowing down. And I think during COVID, it was great that our children knew how to do that already. So they could just say, it's okay, we can just be in this space. We don't have to rush around everywhere. These are, we play something that's called a wave game because we're not allowed to go swimming, obviously, as part of the kindergarten program. So these children are learning about how to read the waves and the story that they tell, and how they're going to know when it comes faster or slower. And you can see them really concentrating hard there to see if they can work it out. And the game is you're not to let the wave touch your feet. So they're exploring and experimenting with how quickly they can react and how fast the sea can react. More ways of children learning about how to access the environment, what they can do with it, the science that comes with that sand, and what happens when you dig it and then the water comes in, where'd the water come from. So lots of science concepts happening. This is a close-up of our rock platform. So we do allow the children to collect and touch the sea creatures that are there, but we teach them how to do that in a respectful manner, about that this is someone else's land, environment, home that you're entering, and this is the way that we care for that. But it's a great way for the children to be able to learn about those creatures. And we're guided by the experts around us in the marine field about the safety and how to make sure those animals are safe. More courageous play here on this great big bit of rock that's sticking out. So we've obviously got the play aspect of this rock, but we've also got, there's a lot of tube worms and lots of different crustaceans living on this rock that we can teach the children about too. So there's sort of like a whole lot of different things that can be happening in their learning environments. This was just a story I was going to share with you. So we saw these footprints on the beach the other day, and we're trying to work out what made them, and we couldn't work it out because we could see that there was a toe of an animal, but then the line at the back, we couldn't work out what that was. And then we saw some birds, some seagulls walking on the beach. So we watched them really carefully, and we actually found out that the seagull was making that footprint, but we couldn't work out why it was making that drag line at the back. So just lots of wondering and discussions and watching and trying to work out which part of the foot was making that line at the back. So really stimulating the children's curiosity and their wonder, and learning that adults don't always have the answers, that we're observing as well and trying to work it out. Just some more photos of children being and taking their time. Lots of imaginative play occurs within those environments, and then the imaginative play is usually informed by what they know in those spaces. And we also have obviously some risk taking happening in those top photos, but there's lots of different seaweeds and grasses that are washed up on the beach. So we talk about the differences in those, and if we've got information about them, then we share that with the children. But sometimes it's as simple as noticing the differences and that they're not all the same. We also find a lot of dead things at the beach, and the families at first are like, dead things, but gee, do we learn a lot from dead things. So this is a mutton bird that was washed up. Actually, they were all dying this year that this happened. So we got one, and we looked at the feathers, and we talked about all the different parts of the bird, and we talked about why did we think it died, and, you know, was it because of human impact on the environment? What sort of things could we do to help to keep the animals safe and healthy? So those conversations happen all the time when we find dead animals. As you can see, there's some dead animals there, and there's some live creatures as well. So the children are always learning and picking up and feeling and touching and looking at the shapes and talking about the different types of creatures we're finding and wondering about them. How do they move? Where do they live? Why did they die? Constantly having those discussions. And if we don't know what something is, we usually contact the Dolphin Research Institute, which is in Hastings near us, and they usually help us identify things. I try not to go to the internet. I want to show the children that there's other ways to learn about information, and ones that involve our relationships. Here we are, we found this shark one day, so we took it back to Kinder and we had a really good look at what it was happening with it. And you know, how often can you get up and close and personal to a shark like that? Some more risk-taking examples here, learning about how big are those waves? Can I stay on that pole? How strong are they? We also use nature for storytelling. and we encourage the children and teach them how to set up story scenes, and often in those stories will be elements of their day in nature or things that they know. So they'll include stories about crabs or koalas or the dolphins, the things that they've had access to. This was a little girl just last week talking about some bulbulps. So bulbulps are the Bunurong word for children, and she was talking about how they found an echidna and what happened from there. Partnerships really, really important in this program. So this is our ranger, Paul, and he involves us in conservation projects that he might be doing. In this one, we're planting out some seeds to help with the erosion that was happening on the beach. And the bottom one is just, he was patrolling the beach and he stopped by and he told the children what was going on and they asked him questions. So really positive, friendly partnerships. Here we are doing our revegetation. And these are other foundations that we have strong links with. So the Dolphin Research Institute that I spoke about before, and the Bunurong Foundation, where Noe Carolyn Briggs works with us. And this is just an example of a project that we did a couple of years ago with our local primary school and early learning centre, where we were talking to the children about the impact that we have on the waterways. So we asked them to collect plastics, soft plastics from their homes for a term. And we learnt about wah. Wah is the Bunurong word for the crow or raven, and it's his job to protect the waterways. So we talked about the impact that plastic has on our waterways, both our creeks and our seas. And all the plastic was melted into black planks. The children worked with an artist to create their own wahs, and she took these designs from their work, and the planks of black plastic were created into these sculptures. So the one on the right hand side is down next to the creek, and there's a sign next to that that talks about it's WA's job to protect the waterways and please help. And then one of these sculptures is in each of those services. So just showing that it really showed the community that the children were engaged and really understood this process of caring for the waterways and what we could do maybe with some of our plastics that we do have. And that's it from me. I think it's a great program. The children are learning a lot. Our plan is that they're going to be ambassadors for the marine life. They certainly have great respect for the space that we learn in, and they will talk to other people as they come by about, you know, your dog should be on leads because there's birds down there that are nesting and they're really endangered, and please take your rubbish away, all those sorts of things, as well as just enjoying the creatures and the space that we're in. I think that's it. Thank you.
That was wonderful. There's a few comments in there for you about, yeah, I wish I had beach kinder. It was amazing. Yeah, and I guess a lot of people this recording will be shared, so there'll be people that can get in contact with you if they want to set up something similar, get some advice from you. Yes. And I just had a little idea too that what we can share as well. If you've got if you've ID'd all these marine organisms, I would love to be able to share that, as in this is what you found and this is the scientific name, you know, simple things like that. It's amazing.
Okay, thank you.
All right, just looking at the time, lucky last but definitely not least, thanks for sticking around, Rita. And she's from the Maritime Museum, which appropriately we also call the Sea Museum. So so I'll let you begin. Thank you, Rita.
Okay, I think I'm sharing now.
Yes, I can see it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just checking in. Look, I've been overwhelmed by the incredible breadth of experience, knowledge, incredibly engaging activities that are going on in this space, not just locally, nationally and internationally. So, you know, I hope to be able to round it off by talking from the Australian National Maritime Museum. And I hope my slides work as well. Okay. Right, next slide. Everyone see the next slide?
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, so where I work is the Australian National Maritime Museum based in Sydney and Pyrmont at Darling Harbour. And the museum here, basically, we're in the education program where I work. We look at ways to engage with our school and communities in innovative ways, but extending past Sydney on a national level. And I'll explain what that is. So at the museum here, we run a range of programs. We have a range of education programs, not just science, but we run about 10 plus programs from the K to 12 syllabus, ranging from history through visual arts and so forth. Also, we have permanent exhibitions and we have temporary exhibitions. We have travelling exhibitions that we are able to tap into. So hearing from what everybody's talking about with the range of experts out there, we're very lucky here at the Maritime Museum that we're able to draw on incredible exhibitions, world-class, local, Indigenous exhibitions, science-based ones that I'll talk about in a moment. They're about to start up later this year. And also we have our curators, maritime archaeologists, our conservation specialists in our lab here that we can draw and use for all of our school programs. We're the only federal museum outside of the ACT, which is good and bad. Sometimes it's difficult because I think everything's happening in Canberra at the museums, in a community in Sydney here, the same thing, and also nationally. We sort of slip through the gaps. So we are very open to collaborating and participating in networks and partnerships locally and nationally and internationally. There's only 2 full-time staff members at the moment who are education officers with our head. We also use a range of casual museum educating staff who are all qualified teachers. We link with the Australian and also international curriculums for the cross-curriculum priorities. And our director's vision currently for the museum is to look at an emphasis on science, technology, and also digital outreach. You can see a photo at the top there talking about digital outreach. You'll notice there's a group of students with lots of face masks on. We've just completed a series of 7 video conference sessions with high schools in Korea, ranging from year 9 to year 11. We're very interested to know about Australian history, culture, science, life through their cultural program. And that was incredible. That was just an incredible program that we're involved in. And you can see here something that comes out of it. So these are these opportunities that come up all the time when you do collaborate and you do, I guess, spread out wide when it comes to your outreach and programs. Currently, we have an exhibition that just opened this week called the Sea Women of Jeju Island. And you can see the photograph there from Hanoi. There's that picture of the school group down below. The fascinating moment of serendipity was our Indigenous curator had mentioned to me that we were about to have this exhibition, that the school that I was about to work with possibly was the one that these women, the famous ocean divers, the women of Jeju Island, were from that same area, and maybe some of the students knew them. In fact, they did. There was a student there who was able to give a recount of these women and their impact on the community, but also looking at impact in changing marine and fishing styles. So we have a current exhibition with a class that I did a virtual conference with, who now are involved with presenting blogs and also talking on behalf of their school, their community area, about marine ocean fishing practices as it relates to community roles and social changes and practices for women, which happen to be around International Women's Day. What we do here is we look at real life learning strategies. We handle real artifacts and objects on site. And if we're doing it virtually, we're able to actually use our artifact collection. We use replicas. We do media conferencing with people who are out in the field. So our maritime archaeologists and our curator for ocean science and technology as well. We also encourage visiting collection institutions to participate with that. And we have real multimedia real life excavations of artifacts and display. And also we allow, when students engage with us, we want them to experience and create their own story as an outcome of being able to engage with the museum. This is another example of the wonderful resources that we do have here. We currently have a display of high-end beach fashion made out of beach rubbish. And you can see the designer there has called her store the Inconvenience Store. And she says, sorry, we are here to please you. And that's a design there that she has of fishing nets. There's another one that she's put together with rubber ducks, another one with paper plates. You can see you actually can go into the store and buy used Band-Aids, and you can use used cutlery. So it's whatever has been found in the ocean. She encourages people to take anything because she said, unfortunately, there is more waste out there to be collected. So in our education programs, we're able to tap into these incredible resources. Also, somebody else has mentioned too about the UN Decade of the Oceans. We are also part of and embrace the UN Decade of the Oceans. What are we really focusing on? We're looking at ocean literacy. So here we've got a responsibility to lead in the promotion and conservation of Australia's heritage and culture by sharing our collections, by motivating learning through our school programs, by reaching out virtually in our distance programs and our travelling exhibitions, talking about contemporary issues. And again, we're really lucky that we're able to tap into these specialists and to have these resources and these exhibitions. So it's part of our responsibility then to get that information out, to connect people and share. So this is part of a 10-year plan. I met with a few groups today and they said, we don't have to do everything in year one. We have 10 years to do it. So it's quite exciting to know that we'll be building and hopefully see some change, some real behavioural and attitudinal change in this time. So in the 10-year plan, these are just a range of very brief description of the sorts of programs that we're hoping to run and initiatives. So we've got a public exhibition on display. We've got research that's available for people to actually engage and do their own research. We're also going to pump out digital content, podcasts and blogs, and we're going to have a devoted space for students and related activities, and also for organisations. Also at this museum here too, we do encourage internships. So we have a lot of students who are studying at university who come in to actually give back and share and work with us. I'm working with a student who's going to be writing a program about marine science and ocean waste. And she's based in Queens in Canada. So we're doing a virtual placement because she said she can't do a placement in Canada. So she may as well, because everybody's in lockdown, she may as well do it here with the Sydney museums. So there's these great opportunities to be able to also look at encouraging up and coming professionals and bringing in new ideas. So what's happening at the museum right now and beyond? Well, we have been working with people like Karen and Virtual Excursions Australia quite extensively in the last few weeks. We are in the throes of our Women in Science program. It was launched on Friday on site. We started with a cross to the RVI, the Research Vessel Investigator, and talked to the scientists there and who are doing a lot of work in the area of krill research. That launched our program. We had people coming in through the live stream. It's also going to be available post to be uploaded for everybody. On site, we had activities. We had our ROVs, our underwater drones. We had a plankton lab. We had backstage tours of a conservation lab. That was a really inspiring first day, but now we're in the middle of a program that's running this week. So we have Valerie Taylor, a very famous, I guess, a leading specialist in the area of scuba diving, underwater cinematography. She'll be giving a live stream talk. Again, you can connect through that through Dart and through YouTube, and they'll be available post this week. So people can upload them and use them as resources after this week. We've had across to the Falcor investigator vessel. We're doing textiles and science. There's some that are related to the ocean and some that are more directly related to other areas of science. We also have an ocean lab on site, and that's a partnership with UTS, with students from UTS looking at microplastics, looking at plankton, looking at the food chain, looking at global warming. I mentioned we have ROV, underwater drones, that I will show you in a moment. And we also have an ocean sustainability program commencing from August as being part of the UN Decade of the Oceans. Here are some images of our UTS-sponsored science lab that's used for our family programs as well as K-12 programs, and working with the students from the University of Technology, Sydney. There is also a picture of the Associate Professor Martina, who is involved with setting up a lot of that research. We have underwater drones on the left, you can see drones going underwater with students actually getting to navigate them through the Sydney Harbour. And the image on the right there is a fish poking out, and we have incredible life, sea life in the harbour. And during lockdown, it was unbelievable. Some of the footage that we managed to get was, you would be really shocked that you were looking at Sydney Harbour. I'm hoping to develop more work in that area of ecosystems. We do have an old canon that I'm working with the Maritime Authority at looking at dropping in the harbour and then watching as all the ecosystems develop around it, and also working with our Maritime Archaeology project. Women in Science event, that's a listing of all the different talks that we've had. These are going to be available afterwards as well through Dart and also through YouTube. So if anyone's interested, let me know. So that's the list of talks that we're currently doing. And I'll skip through that because I know we're running out of time. I want to mention one more program that we have, an exhibition that is running, and it's called Vast. It's about the oceans, the vastness of the ocean, and it's commencing in August, and it's round about Science Week time, and it's going to end in February. So out of that exhibition, we're going to be hosting a series of talks, online events, on-site activities and programs. So it's going to be an exhibition of the vast wonders of this world, broken up into 5 themes. The first theme is Wonder, Let's Appreciate What There Is to Lose. And here we'll have a large-scale cinema, 4K movie projection of recent discoveries from Falcor's expedition, where the next theme will be Evidence, what's happening and how it's all connected. There'll be interactive 3D visualizations where visitors can virtually manipulate scenarios and look at specimens, these specimens that have been found. The next theme is Witnesses. It affects us all as individuals, cultures and societies. There will be a soundtrack, a background of people talking in their native languages, in their original languages, talking about their experiences, observations and events and recollections from around the globe about how the impact that ocean change has had on their way of life. There'll be history, science and technology measuring and revealing the ocean. So looking at artifacts from 2 centuries of ocean science technology used to measure, explore and analyse and understand the ocean. And this will be ranging from 1872 from samples collected from HMS Challenger, which I'm really excited looking at, all the way through to the recent Australian Antarctic Division work. And we're hoping to have an ice core on display. Today we were talking about how we're going to display that as well. And also new robotic technologies. There'll be a theme of looking forward, so joining the marine science community to look at how we actually can instigate or agitate or promote change. And the last theme will be linking all the themes together. So there'll be themes of philosophy, learning from one another, looking at statistics, looking at the First Nation experience, and looking at, and there we're quite excited, we're looking at developing a game. So it's looking at your ocean personality, and it'll bring your own device game, and hopefully we're going to have that up online. So sorry I had to go through that really quickly, but I know I'm the last speaker, and I'm sure everybody is just so blown away and overwhelmed with everything that they've heard today, but inspired. So that's the email address, the website address, sorry, for the learning programs at the National Maritime Museum. I'm more than happy, and I would love to look at talking further with individuals and collaborate with everybody, and send me any questions as well. But thank you, and I've been honoured to be in such an esteemed group and audience of people. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, everyone. What a wonderful showcase of a small selection, but a wonderful selection to relaunch SEAWEEK in 2021, relaunching it in March. All those links that you've shared, we'll be sharing them through our social media, but also in the Aussie newsletter. And that's things that are current and also links to things that were coming throughout the year. And this recording will be able to see for free for a week, that they've told me. And then after that become for the A2E2 members. But because it has been such a long meeting, we might be able to take snapshots of different presenters, but I'll let you know as we go along what we've recorded and edited to, because there's a lot there. We can put them in different sections like early learning versus tertiary, or even topics, etc. So I'll let you go, because I know a lot of you have got some things to go to, maybe dinner or maybe just life. thank you so much for staying to the end. And I really appreciate you telling us about your wonderful organisation in ocean education. So happy SEAWEEK.
Thanks, Sarah. Brilliant. Sarah Jo, brilliant job.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much, Sarah. Sorry, amazing ride. It's going to be wonderful.
That's all right. I know. People have got things at 7, at 8, so I'll let everybody go.
Yeah.